Then after control statements, what we have is the loops. So loops is very useful if, let's say, you want to run a segment of code multiple times and you don't want to copy and paste it multiple times. Yeah. So there are two types of loops in Python, the for loop and while loop. So for loop basically is, for for loop, right, you need to specify to Python, you want to run the loop for how many times. And then for while loop, it will continue running until it fills a certain condition. But I will introduce the for loop first. So the for loop structure is like this. For I in range 07, for I in range, then inside here, then inside this section here, like so then inside this section here is basically everything inside the for loop. So this I here is just a page, it's just a counting variable. You can put I here, you can put J here, you can put count here also can. But then yeah, like this is just a counting variable. You can replace I with whatever other variable name you want. Yeah. Then basically in range 072, basically you just say start from I equals to 0 all the way to 7, and then do increments of 2. So in this case, when you do here, I will run it, then maybe it's easier to see. So if I do I, right, it will print the counting variable. So you see, you print 2, 0, 2, 4, 6, because I tell you to increment in steps of 2. So let's say if I omit it, Python will automatically default to steps of 1. So you see, it will go from print I equals 0, I equals 1, I equals 2, I equals 3 until 6. So this end, right, it will end at the integer. It will end at the integer or whatever thing just before the end number that you provided. So in this case, for 7, right, it will go up to 6 because 6 is the largest number that it will hit before 7 itself. Yeah, so just revert back to the step size of 2. Yeah. Then, so let's say instead you want to go, instead of going for positive, right, you want to go negative as well. It's also possible, but but now your end will need to be smaller than your starting number, and then your step size will have to be negative. So you have 0. After one loop, it will minus 2 to go to minus 2. Then after another loop, it will minus 2 again to go to minus 4, and then it will minus 2 to go to minus 6, and like this. And then like this is how you do a loop. But then instead of getting larger and larger, you get smaller and smaller. Yeah. Then this thing is just to show that even after your loop has completed, right, your counting variable is not deleted from your memory. It still remains in the memory. So in case you want to do something with your counting variable after that, it's still there. Yeah. Oh yeah, I forget to mention here, but then like it's also possible to do nested for loops, like for the nested control statement. So you can do like this, and then we can do print I items j here. So the thing is that we will expect to see 25 lines. Yeah, we will expect to see 25 lines of numbers. So if I do this, right, you will see that, or you get, yes, like 5 of these, 5 of the, then 5 numbers, then so on and so forth. Then all these zeros because you get because your inside loop one, right, will be set to 0 after a loop itself. Yeah, so you can go and count the number of things here. You will see it's 20. Actually not 20. Actually not 25. It's 16 times because from 0 to 5, right? So with 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the outer loop will run 4 times. The inner loop will run 4 times. Then in total, this will run 16 times to produce these 16 numbers over here. Yeah. Yeah. So you can do nested for loops as well. Yeah. Let me see. Yeah. Okay. So for this, right? Yeah, I think you can see here. For the range itself, it is optional to specify the starting number and the step size. But Python will default to 0 and 1 as the default starting and step size. Yeah. So if you are lazy, or actually not lazy, it's like if you know that you don't need to specify, right, you can get away with this as well. Yeah. So other than that, we also have the for loop. So for our for loop, right? Basically, it will just check every time. Yeah. So the thing is that the while loop will run as long as this condition is returned true. So the thing is that it will run whenever, like, it will run forever as long as the number stored in this variable is not a multiple of 11. Yeah. So okay, maybe I comment this out for now. Yeah, so if I run it, I will see I print the number 124. Yeah, so then if I go into here, I will add 7 to the number. So the number from 124 become 131. Then this is just to check what is the remainder. So 131 is not a multiple of 11. 138 is not a multiple of 11. So yeah, so you see, this is basically the while loop keep running until eventually we hit 187. So 187, right, is a multiple of 11. So after you finish printing, you go and check the condition. So the condition 187 modulus 11 is return 0, right? And then 0 not equals to 0 is false because 0 is equals to 0. So in that case, it will exit the for loop. Yeah. So for while loop one, right, it's very important that when you craft a while loop, it's important that your while loop, that it will eventually hit. It will like the condition in the while, it will eventually be false. If not, right? If not, your loop will keep running without a stop. Yeah, without coming to a stop. So to give you an example, let's say I do don't do this because it's very stupid. So while true, print infinity. So if I do this, right, you see that it will keep printing infinity like this and it will never come to the end. Then you need to manually, and then you need to manually tell Python to stop. If not, it will keep printing forever and forever until there's no end to it. Yeah. So if you choose to use a while loop, it's important that you craft your while loop in a way that it will eventually end. Yeah. So let me delete that. Yeah. Then one more thing to note. So earlier when I mentioned that you can do a nested for loop, you can do a nested while loop as well. And then one thing to take note when you do while loop, right? If you do a nested loop, it may take very long to run. Like for this case, we are dealing with very small number of loops. You're only dealing with like 4 loops, like a loop that goes on for only 4 times or maybe 10 times at most. But let's say if you have a loop that goes for 1,000 times, and then we have 2 loops that go for 1,000 times, then in the end, there will be a million loops there, and then a million loops can actually get quite slow. So yeah, so if you choose to do a nested for loop one, right, maybe you might want to take note of how many times you are actually looping, because it might slow down your code significantly. Yeah. Yeah. So other than the for and while, sometimes you also want to end a loop early. You either want to skip a section of the loop, or you want to end a loop early. So in this case, we can use the continue and break statement. The break statement is to end the loop early. So it is for I in range, I will print the I, and then if I is greater than 5, I will break, which means that I will exit the loop. So for here you can see 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then after 600, you see 7, 8, 9 doesn't appear anymore because right, the first time that this is true is 6. So when 6 greater than 5, I will break and then I will exit the loop. So I won't continue for 7, 8, 9. Yeah, then maybe you might be confused. Why is 6 printed when even though we hit this condition? Because the print statement, I put it before the if. So let's say if I put it behind, right, you will see that the 6 isn't here because the print is after the if. Yeah. So let me just bring it back. Okay, yeah. So for this, yeah, then for continue, whatever we do is we will exit, we will skip the rest of the things inside the loop itself. So for I greater than 5, I will continue, which means I will, okay, actually, yeah, I will instead do this instead because I realize my comment say we enter here only when I equals to 5. So by right, it should be I equals to 5. So let's say if I run it, right, you see, you have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, then I will skip 5 and 6, 7, 8, 9. This is because if I equals to 5, right, I will go inside here and then I will hit the continue statement. So continue statement means that I will skip whatever is after this, whatever is after this part. Yeah, in this part of the loop, which is your print I statement. So when I equals to 5, we will skip the print statement and immediately go to I equals to 6. Yeah. Then we can also do things like if I mod 2 equals to 0. So what I've done here is basically if I is a even number, I won't print the number. So I will only print odd number, which is what you see here. Yeah. Yeah. So this is how you can either end a loop early or skip a section of the loop. I'll just change this back. Okay. This is wrong. Oh yeah, I realized I didn't mention. Be careful when you want to check and compare two numbers versus assigning numbers, versus assigning an operator, because if you want to compare against two numbers is equals. But let's say you want to assign a variable is only one equals. So sometimes, right, you might accidentally do this instead. Yeah, then in this case, Python will give you a Python fortunately capture this error for you. But then sometimes you might not be so lucky. Python don't actually catch this error, then you got some problem. Yeah. So sometimes when you're debugging your code, it might be useful to check whether you have mixed up your equals to versus your equals. Like whether are you assigning a variable or whether are you checking whether two variables are equal to each other. Yeah. Yeah, so be careful of that. Okay, so we have come to the next exercise, which is basically to extend your code from exercise 1 to check all numbers from 10 to 30 instead of checking each number one by one. Yeah, so in this case, using a loop will help you to, to extend the code from earlier to check multiple numbers. Yeah, this one I think should be quite simple. I will give you until 840. Yeah, so now 840, let me show you the suggested way to do it. Yeah, so because we want to do from 10 to 30, the natural way, the natural thing to do will be to do a for loop from 10 to 31. Then we can check whether is it even or whether is it even number or not. And if it's an even number, we print the number. Yeah, so you can see if I run this, it will print from 10 all the way to 30. So yeah, I will print all even numbers from 10 to 30 inclusive. Yeah, so let me clear this output and hide this again.